Hey nerds, welcome back to the Nerd Hangout. In this episode, we're gonna talk about, well, something nostalgic. One of my all-time favorites, the Turtles. Let's go. Let's dive into an 80s special, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, an all-time favorite of mine, and it all started with Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman, who were co-creators of the Turtles. Peter and Kevin became friends and had a shared love for comic books. Peter and Kevin had a dream of getting into the comic book business and joked about their small apartment house being their studio and called it Mirage Studios. They tried to sell some ideas like the Fantastic Fugitoid comics, but had no luck. But then late one night in their home studio apartment, they were goofing around, trying to make one another laugh by drawing silly characters. And Kevin Eastman drew this turtle with a bandana and nunchucks. And Laird loved it. He laughed his head off and drew his own version. And they laughed together, and they together added things to these drawings and started drawing a group of turtles dressed as ninjas. And they named them that night the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They started liking what they had drawn and started working on the characters, giving them a story and made it into a comic. They self-published the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic book and made 3,275 copies. They sold out in one day after release, so they received a new order on 50,000 copies. Whoa, now that is a home run. So of course after that, they quit their regular jobs and started creating comics full-time. Now it is worth to mention that the first series of the Turtle comics was a lot darker than what most of us know today. For an example from the cartoons. Anyway, the new comic book was a smash hit and got a notice by an upcoming agent or a man dreaming about becoming an agent. His name was Mark Freeman, and he pitched the idea to Peter and Kevin about turning their smash hit comic book into a toy and other forms of entertainment, and asked to become their license agent to sell the characters of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to toys and entertainment companies. Now Peter and Kevin did agree on Mark's deal, but they had one major condition. We have all final say on everything. Well, Mark Freeman agreed and they were in business. So Mark actually had a stuffed bear. I don't know if it's called a bear. It wasn't a teddy bear. We call it bears, teddy bears. No children sleep with. Anyway, Mark had made a likeness of a turtle with a bandana, a bear, and he put it in his car as he was driving around on the hunt to sell this merchandise to entertainment companies and toy companies. He even said that people found it funny that he had this stuffed turtle sitting in his car. He was driving around in his convertible, and as he was pulling up, stopping by a red light, people called him the turtle guy. People were not used to seeing a stuffed turtle at that time. So Mark had a stuffed turtle bear wearing a bandana made, and it was sitting in his car, and went on the hunt to sell the turtles to any major companies out there. At first, Mark's first feedbacks were not good. People told Mark that out of all animals you can think of turning into a ninja, why a turtle? They are extremely slow. And calling a kid's toys a ninja, which by definition in the dictionary is a hired assassin, will be a problem to sell as a kid's toy. And FYI, anything green will not sell, he was told. Mark went on to the companies like LGN, where Jack Freeman was the CEO, and he said thanks but no thanks. He was also turned down by CEO of Mattel, Jill Barrett, and was told that this idea will never work. Mark met a lot of naysayers, and then finally he came to Hasbro. He talked with a guy called Kirk Bosigan, who took a look at the turtle and thought, you know what, I think this is kind of cool. Yes, finally hope for Mark Freeman. Kirk took it up to his CEO, who took a look at it and said,
"This is the most stupid idea I have ever seen."
Another turn down. But Freeman did not let this put him down and kept driving around with a stuffed turtle in the shape of a ninja and was determined that this was a good idea. He called up a friend called Richard Salas, who just got a job at a company called Playmates Toys. Mark felt that this was probably his last resort and last chance. He told Richard, "I'm going to send you a large box with a big stuffed animal turtle in it. Take a look at it." And response was, "Sure, send it." The day after, Freeman called Richard and asked, "Did you get the box?" The answer was, "Well, yes, but it's been sitting in my office." "Well, open it!" And Richard went to his office. He opened the box. So as Mark was hanging on the phone waiting, there was complete silence. Then Richard was looking at the stuffed animal and he told Mark, "It looks great. Let's see what I can do." Finally, a toy company who actually was interested in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Mark then afterwards, filled with joy, called Peter and Kevin to tell them the good news. He had found a toy company that might be interested, Playmates Toys. Now, Peter and Kevin had never heard of it, so they did not get too excited. And in their defense, the only thing that Playmates was known for at that time was a doll line that was popular in the 80s and were not well known after that. The company had its home in Hong Kong before searching for the market in the USA. The first toy that became famous in the US was the Cricket doll.
Let's be friends, we'll do things together. We'll have a great old time. Cricket, what makes you talk? I've got a real cassette tape player built right in. You just put in any one of my special tapes and press play.
But turned out fast to be a flop. It was simply too complicated a doll to produce. So they at the time were looking for a new big thing that could sell good and then a bonus was easy to produce. And right at that time, Mark Freeman came with an idea to Playmates Toys. Richard went to the top guys at Playmates and showed them the stuffed turtle. They liked it and said, "I think this will work." So Mark sealed the deal with them at $150,000 and got to keep all the rights to all the creativity decisions that Mark had promised Peter and Kevin, and they were excited and happy. So in January 1987, they began producing the action figure toy line of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now the problem was that the toy company had no idea about the genre. They were only used to making dolls before this. And the other toy competitions right there were Barbie, My Little Pony, G.I. Joe, Masters of the Universe, Transformers, and WWF wrestlers action figures, so the competition was really high. Which I also want to talk about in another episode. Now remember, the Turtles were violent, dark and gritty in the comics at the time, so the problem was now how do we turn them into a kid's toy line? So there had to be a bit cleaning up to do from the original comic material of Eastman and Lard. They brought in a man called John Handy to lighten up the story of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and make it more, let's say, funny. He got some help from others, and they modified and simplified the story, took away the revenge part of the story and added more enemies. They had to put the Shredder back to life, who actually died in the first issue of the comics, because at the time, Peter and Kevin never believed that they would ever become another issue. So no enemies were made. Rocksteady, Bebop, and a few others not so popular, like Up Chucky, who could shoot food out of his mouth with high velocity, and another character who didn't even get a name, who had a gun for a nose. When John Handy came with his new idea for an upgrade to the CEO of Playmates, well, he was not impressed. They felt they needed something more to get the toys sold, and felt the original fans of the comics were an older generation and would probably not be interested in the toy line. So at this point, they had a new upbeat idea for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They had sketched out some drawings of some new enemies. They had put Shredder back alive, but they needed a new hook to get the toy sold. And in the future episode, guys, I'm gonna talk about how exactly they did that. And for me, as a young kid in the late 80s, early 90s, this was the best part of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So if you wanna hear what that is, guys, catch me in another episode of the Nerd Hangout. See you, nerds. Thank you for today. Goodbye. Edit beside him the entire time as he's driving around to sell your characters to the toys. Kan äta så. And put it in his car and he put it